Hello and welcome to the Annie Altman Show, All Humans Are Human podcast, season 5. Welcome to the third episode of the Creation Sea series. Today, I am so happy I get to be here for the second time with Emma Grace Waters of EmmaGraceWaters.com, also known as Emma Waters. You can check her out on Instagram, on TikTok. She does all sorts of cool creative things, and so I was really stoked that she said yes to come on for a second time for this topic, because she's just one of those people who creates of all these different kinds, and we're going to talk about what that's like and the flow and the fluidity of creative energy and vibes, and let it all out however we want to talk about it. So all that being said, thank you so much, Emma, for being here. I'm so excited to record again.
Thank you for having me, Annie, as am I.
Here we go, creating podcast number 2. I think the video just lagged. I think the mic is still on? Testing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. We got a lag. We're gonna keep going. I think that's the last one.
I think so. Hopefully.
I'd love for you to say a little bit about yourself for people who have not yet checked you out on the first episode, to share about a little of your background, maybe where you're at physically, where you're at in life right now, what sort of creative stuff brings you the most joy and connection and authenticity, all those fun buzzwords.
Sure. The last time I was on the podcast, I was doing a few different creative things. You mainly brought me on the show. You found me on TikTok. So at the time I was creating existential sketches, comedy sketches on TikTok at Sesame Seed Bagel. If you want to check those out, they're still up. And they're on my Instagram as well. And at that time I was interested in acting, but COVID kind of had stunted that process a little bit, and there weren't as many auditions or gigs happening, and I had come off a movie project that was pretty emotionally intense, so I wanted to switch over to comedy, and TikTok just like happened to be the best platform and like exactly what I needed at that time. So I started to dive into that, and then the TikTok kind of blew up out of nowhere, and I wasn't expecting it. And then we can talk about that later, about like creation pressure and creation guilt and stuff like that. I think is interesting conversation, and some things that I was struggling with possibly that many followers that quickly. And now I recently ended a bartending job and have been off the past couple weeks trying to realign with my creativity. And I'm currently very interested in like home makeovers, renter-friendly stuff, budget 101, and all things home, like organization and deep cleaning and decor, DIY decor. I love that stuff. That's what I'm trying to get into, and we'll see if I like it.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. I found you, like you said, on TikTok for the existential videos, and it was when you messaged saying that you're getting into this stuff and making videos about that, I can see a lot of the same skills and a lot of the same things that you're going to get to put into different ways. Mm-hmm. And also, like we were talking about before, like none of the creative stuff is going anywhere. Like you still have all the options for all the things whenever. And I really admire you being willing to shift and not say, oh, I have to only do this kind of video now and forever.
Yeah. And it was for a while I felt kind of sucked into only making one type of video or doing having one type of creative outlet. So when I was trying to get into acting, when I was first out of college, I felt like, oh, that's all you can do. Like you have to focus on acting. You can only do that. Like you can't have other outlets, or like if you want to succeed, you got to go and like hustle. And then TikTok happened, and I felt like you can only make one type of video because that's the video that's performing well, and that's the video that people want to see, and they don't want to see anything else that you're making. And that's also like kind of probably made up in my head, but just something that I think some creators do struggle with on those types of apps is audience retention, and also like what audiences want to see. But then it started to become a little bit less authentic of if I didn't, at a certain point, I was writing sketches for myself, and then it turned into, oh, well, what'll be the funniest? What's
Yeah,
gonna get like, what's gonna get the most likes? And so I have not created a sketch in probably over a year, and in that time, it's given me. I haven't really done many creative things over the past year, and it's kind of refueled my passion for being creative and like the reason why I create. And it's like for myself and, following what you want to do and your impulses. Like that's kind of what makes you a distinct artist. And I think it's a much better mentality of I can act if I'd like to act, but I don't have to do that all the time. I can make sketches if I'd like to make sketches, but I don't have to do that all the time. I can try YouTube. I can try painting. I can try decor. I can try things as a creative person and not be so rigid, which is like, duh. Why did I ever think that I had to be rigid in those things? But it's, I think some people struggle with that.
Totally. I relate to that challenge as well, and that learning of sometimes not even being aware of how many different boxes I'm putting myself in and how much I'm wanting to control the flow of creative energy and time and physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever kind of energies you believe in, or how to let things happen. And that whole part of it will also, a lot of what I'm hearing that I relate to also is a lot of self-compassion and a lot of being honest with yourself about your intention. I'd love for you to share more about the part of, am I creating this for myself or am I creating this for someone else? And
Sure.
what you were sharing too of like the guilt and pressure and those feelings of needing to make art to perform or to like fill some need for other people versus how it started when you were like, wow, I just made this amazing movie. And also it was a lot of this kind of creative energy. And so now it was like you naturally went to something like you said to kind of like balance it or to lighten it or to fill in the other half of things. And then it became almost like self-imprisoned or like a box, or I feel like a lot of people relate to this. And like you definitely have to all the, like that you grew so fast and those things that like I can only imagine the layers that added to then you're like wanting to give back to people or wanting to like give and support, and also like you said of like being an artist and expressing and following that impulse is
Yeah.
what it is.
It's, sometimes I'd follow an impulse and not do a certain type of sketch. And it wouldn't, what was hard for me was like getting millions of views and like hundreds of thousands of likes on a certain type of video, but then posting a different type of video and it getting a fraction of that attention. And then instead of thinking like, I was like, oh, am I not funny anymore? Or like, does nobody want to see this anymore? And so it got a little bit, those things get in your head. And so then you're like, well, okay, like, let me try remaking the one that did really well. And then it does well again. And then so it reinforces the idea that the audience wants us one specific type of thing. But, and also TikTok rewards you, like if you're doing the same type of thing and it's doing well, it's going to keep pushing out those things that are doing well, which then has the, exponential growth. But on the things, which makes it seem even more like, oh, that's what everybody likes. That's like what only everybody wants. But that's also what the app is pushing out. The other stuff, it might not be, set in the algorithm or whatever on the fast track to the For You page, but it doesn't make that content any less creative or like any less, I don't think. But in your mind, when it's happening and you're kind of like in that like social media bubble and you're like checking for comments and seeing like, okay, where's the like positive or negative reinforcement and messages that I'm getting. Like it's like a drug to get all of that attention. It's like you're at one point, if you went to my TikTok notifications, like you couldn't even see the new ones coming in because they were going so fast. And I was like, I would like look at my phone and be like, I don't understand how this is possible that like this many people are like seeing this at the same time and simultaneously like engaging with it. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Like I still can't comprehend that. It's like insane. But when it's happening, you're like, well, this is like really freaking cool. Well, I want this again. And so that also hooks you into why you're doing it. Are you doing it for, like you said, you use the word intention. What is your intention with the creation? Are you doing it for attention? Are you doing it to be authentic? Are you doing it because you're following an impulse? Like, and whatever answer you settle upon, is that answer, if you look at it, is that a healthy way to go about life? In my case, like feeling the need for I guess the desire to get reassurance from an audience was not very healthy in my opinion, and getting away from TikTok has like really helped, because now it's kind of reminded me like this is from me, and it has to remain for me, because if it doesn't, it's like it's sacred if it's yours, but if you let it become only theirs and you're only serving and you're only doing what you think others want, it can very quickly become kind of toxic. This is your cat up there is the funniest thing ever. It's up on the kitchen.
Oh, on the. I wonder which one that is. Gemini kittying around.
Yeah, but I wonder if you feel, if you've created certain boxes for yourself, even with the Humani, like you kind of have to hit certain boxes because you set those boxes up for yourself. But then it's like self-entrapment.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably. I really admire and I really appreciate you being so willing to be so real about human and artist ego, and not in a like this like bypassy like fuck the ego, kill your ego way, of a like really true like, okay, well, I like to create and make art, and part of that is entertainment and expansion of people's thoughts and feelings, or acknowledging that part of art is the audience. Mm-hmm. While also acknowledging and being so real that you as the artist, you as the creator, have to be there and have to be present and have to be truly wanting and having a really deep impulse to create that thing. Because otherwise, who would, like if you did, let's like, play it out, like you just kept putting out sketches people want, eventually, in my, like, it's not you really putting out the sketches, like it's you posturing or masking as this like, oh, well, this is the kind of content people want and this is what can get clicks, and it's literally drug-like, like it's not a metaphor, that the same things in your brain that go off, and I can only imagine like that almost sounded like a casino or like a like
yes
things where you're just like so many notifications, and then also hit with just how many people, like you said, are all viewing your things at the same time, and so you're receiving all this attention, which is a drug, and which doesn't have to be like a horrible bad thing. And also I can only imagine then how challenging that it would, like that was for you to receive all of that attention and all of that conditioning from the algorithm and what's getting likes, that's like do this, mm-hmm. Then really listen to say, okay, well, what do I want to do and how do I listen to that? And I really appreciate you bringing up the Humani, and that's such a good point about how my Capricorn, OCD, autistic, pick a label ass of like, no, 10 C's and I need a structure, and like this is how I find some semblance of security when that is an illusion, and things. And that also then, it's put me in boxes where I have taken a long break from between these last two drafts of it, because I'm like, I know that I'm interested to talk about all of these themes, and also how do I do that in a way where I can still creatively flow and have this fluidity to be myself, and all of those cliches and all of those things that are really real, and let yourself follow the impulse rather than follow, I guess it's follow other people's impulse, which again, it's like these things sound like so simple when in practice it can be really challenging for me to like really tease apart, am I doing this for me or for someone else? Or am I scared to do this because of what I think or because of what someone else is going to think?
Sure. And also you bring up like following your impulses. If you have an impulse to rest, follow that too. Like I think we give weight to certain impulses that we don't give to others because we think we have to work and just like keep pushing out content, and that's what you're going to be rewarded for, and your hard work will pay off, and if you're like sitting on your couch taking a rest, like you're not being productive, and you're not going to like achieve your dreams. Like I find that when I take a rest from a certain creative outlet, which is sometimes years, months, weeks, years, if I take a break from that thing and then I rediscover it just based on actually wanting to do it instead of feeling like I'm forcing myself to do it, it feels like art again. It feels like I'm doing this because I want to do it, not because I have to. And so taking a break from the podcast is very valid because it goes, somebody said to me, I think I was on somebody else's podcast, and he said, I believe this was on a man named Oscar's podcast. He said, you have to be doing it for you. If it's for the audience, people will soon find out. And it's true. Like people can spot inauthenticity and they can spot burnout, I think. And if this is something you're passionate about, you want to be passionate about it. So why do it? Like, why suffer through making yourself do it and then not being as present or engaged in, let's say, a podcast with somebody? Like, what's the point? Just to keep pushing it out? Like, that's silly. But that happens to so many creators and creative people because we also depend on stuff like that. Like, if an artist is making a living with paintings, well, guess what? You have to paint to sell a painting. And it's like the whole conversation about monetizing your passions. It's like, where does it's like it's a slippery slope.
Yes, there's so many good things in here. And you just brought up the one that was on the tip of my tongue of how we relate to all of that at the same time. Well, also, why would you not monetize your passions? Or why would you not be able to get back energy from things you enjoy putting energy into? Well, also, there's so many different valid points you brought up of, I'm really glad you bring up rest in this, and pause and space, and truly rest, of taking that impulse that says, I need to not create, I need to consume, the opposite of creation, and do something else. I need to do nothing. I need to be neutral here. Which I think there's some like online culture that contributes to that. And I think there's lots of cultural things that contribute to, like you're bringing up productivity, that rest is counterproductive somehow, rather than rest is super productive. And that's part of how that impulse, in my experience, that's part of how those impulses can come up, and even have the space to talk and say, like, really be honest with myself about, okay, well, do I want to do music or dancing, or where do I want to put this energy this day or this week or whatever? Did you have a rest, or kind of like, what was the impulse following? Like, was it needing to take a big rest from saying, hey, I don't feel good making sketches? Was it like the impulse starting to come up while you're making sketches of like, ooh, that'd be kind of fun to like do that creative project? Or what was that shift like?
It was mainly feeling pressure to post content instead of wanting to. Like by the end of the sketches I've posted online, it felt, some of them just felt like posting to post instead of posting for a specific reason. Like you need to share this certain truth, or you'd like to connect with this community, or accompanied with the fact that I kind of was forced to take a rest by getting a job. While it was part-time, I was talking to Annie prior to this, just a brief conversation before the podcast started, of being a bartender, but on your days off, you're almost resting and recovering from your last, let's say, 10-hour shift, trying to go into your next 10-hour shift with like a fresh smile and not sore feet. And on those rest days, those like physical rest days and mental rest days, the last thing I wanted to do was make a and like veg out in order to recover from so much social interaction as a bartender or a waitress. And there's like a lot of stimulation. And so I think then having a job kind of gave me an excuse of like, oh, well, I'm actually tired from my job. It's not that I'm tired of making sketches. I'm tired of from my job, so I don't want to make the sketches. But over time, I realized like it was a very convenient excuse, which I didn't have to make an excuse in the first place. If you don't want to create anything anymore, you don't have to. Like nobody was forcing me. It just feels like when people are asking, when are you posting again? When's the next video? Like in a very supportive way of like what I'm creating, you can either take that in the positive or you can take it in the negative, depending on where your mindset's at. And at that point in time, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And I feel bad that I don't know. And I want to give it to you, but I can't. But like I created that pressure in my head because I could have just as easily said, oh, this person's so excited. Like, I'll get back to you when I know. But it's really dependent on your attitude towards it.
So much honesty in there again. And it's so much more simple and more complicated paradoxically at the same time. Because also if you're looking to support yourself financially, you're looking to, you know, fundraise for a future film or other things that you're doing, that then there's some level where it shifts that on the surface, or at least how it seems, and it doesn't shift that deeper part that if it feels forced, it feels forced, and that truth is not going anywhere. And I really, again, I admire your honesty about, because I so relate to that, and I bet there's so many people who are listening who relate to that too, of almost not being aware that you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Something is an excuse because it's like, oh, well, I'm not allowed to say like, hey, you know what? I know this maybe sounds simple or silly or whatever it is. Like, I feel burnt out on sketches, or I don't feel like making, I don't feel like making a sketch right now. That's it. Like, I don't feel like it. And that can be so much more challenging sometimes than, oh, well, I'm doing this other thing and that's come up. Like, to really be honest with yourself on that level of the classic human, what do I want? Where do I want to be flowing my creative energy towards? Mm-hmm.
And also one other thing was, at the time of my channel growth, it was such a whirlwind when like many brands were reaching out to me and managers and agents, and like I had to figure out, while getting all that attention and everything happening in my brain with like basically drug hits to my brain of like extreme dopamine and stuff like that, I'm also trying to figure out like, oh, like, is this something I could do long term? Like, do I want to do this? Do I want to work with brands? Do I want to work with that brand? Is it icky if I work with brands? Because I often, like, I felt with my sketches, it always felt icky monetizing on them because it seemed so inauthentic to make a sketch, like to incorporate a brand in a sketch, because clearly the whole sketch is just to incorporate the brand. right? You can try to get around it creatively. Like that's what I tried to do that with one of my sketch brand deals, and I only did one, but I did feel icky about it. So there was also a choice I had to make, like, do you see yourself doing this in a sustainable way where you could make a living? If not, go make a living doing something else. And so I chose the something else thing because the something else thing was like money right then and there, and I needed it, you know. That was just one more thing.
Yeah, well, there's a few more things in that, of sustainability of your day-to-day life, sustainability of your artistic creative expression, just general sustaining of your energy distributing, like that. It even just going through and like combing through the different brands that were reaching out to you is also more creative energy of, well, do I feel aligned with this, or do I feel aligned with that, or how could I do this, or is there a way that this would feel good? And you're like I'm a Taurus, I go slow, like you're giving me all these options, and like I need time to like reflect on it and like do this how I want. And this is so funny, this came up in one of the other creation podcasts of a Bo Burnham line in one of his songs that I feel like we've danced around here a couple of times, where he says, I want to please you, but I want to stay true to myself.
Yes.
And I feel like you said that of like wanting to give, you know, when people, because that's so natural. I feel like, you know, anyone would feel some level of that, or at least could understand feeling some level of, if you have, also when you're having so many people comment like, when's the next thing, or oh my god, I love this, please make more, that you're like, well, I want to give you what you want. Of course I want, like, of course I want what you want. And also the shift then, I'd love to hear you describe more of that feeling of icky. I love the ick. I love the description of ick. I'd love to hear even more of like that feeling of forced in your body, or that ick of like, dang, like what that distinction is when you know you're putting it out for you versus for some obligation.
I think there is, I think where it stems from, like the it happens so quick, so it can leave as quickly as it came. So I have to grab it like now. It felt like everything was happening all at once, and if I didn't take the opportunity, then I was never going to have it again. Like it was going to disappear. Or if I stop making videos, all my followers are going to disappear. Or if I don't post for a week, they're going to unfollow me. That, like, so that kind of fear that it would all go away if I didn't like grab it, I think also made me post sometimes when I didn't necessarily want to, because I was doing it to maintain. And then it also made me feel like, but that's icky, because you're like, it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm like proud of the video. I don't know if I'm proud of the video. And then the video does well, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so proud of the video. Well, what is it? Are you, or are you liking the attention?
Totally.
That's one thing. And then like with working with brands, it felt like if you go through my TikTok, it's so clearly just videos for an audience, just for like fun. Incorporating brands felt so blatantly obvious that it was for money. Like it's so different. And I don't know why. I think I felt icky about it because I was afraid what people were going to think of me. Like I was going to, you know, I didn't want people to think I was a sellout if I started working with brands. And I also didn't really want to be looked at as an influencer. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I didn't want to be that. And it felt like that was the path because of the content I was making. For some reason, I just didn't feel like it aligned with what I was doing. And then I got the job, so I didn't need the brand deals. But that was something I was like toying with of, okay, if I'm spending all of this time and energy on making a sketch every week, which it was a lot of time and energy, like that I for 60 seconds too. So it's like it's over. It's not like a full 60-minute episode where people are like actually, fine until like waiting until next week because they're like satisfied. 60 seconds goes by so quick, and it's like, holy crap, I spent all of those hours for a minute and I have to do it again. It felt, where was I going with this? Oh, the decision of, if I'm going to be spending all of this time and energy, there has to be some sort of compensation or else I cannot sustain it. But I didn't like the compensation. And so I chose to just be compensated at a different job. And then in turn, that takes away time and energy from creating sketches. And so it just so happened that it kind of fizzled. Not to say I'll never do it again, because sometimes you can go find a passion, like reignite a passion, and then it's authentic, which is cool.
Yeah, that impulse can still be there, come up. And
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of different themes that I super relate to, of things with sustainability, of what is actually sustainable long term. And I'm also then thinking of, and like my science nerd brain coming out of, energy can be neither created nor destroyed, and then how you're flowing it around, and what is the sustainable distribution of that energy in the sustainable system or container or several containers or whatever it is. And then I'm also hearing themes with scarcity mentality that, again, I relate to a lot of that too, of, so like on a few different levels of, again, things we've like touched on of monetizing art, and then also things with, I guess, sort of like attention and just maybe even creative energy. Like, do you feel sometimes, or would you relate to like, maybe it's like, again, that self-imposed, like, oh, well, I have to put my creative energy towards this thing, or like, I don't know, I don't have the exact words for the feeling I'm wanting to get of like a sort of scarcity of how much creativity is within you to flow around, or like, I don't know, maybe really though it's more about the box of your perception or of other people's perceptions, and needing to, like, feeling a sense of like a surface level scarcity because you're like, oh, I have to restrict my creativity here, or like I'm not, like the things too we've been talking about of like I'm not allowed to rest, or I'm not allowed to just like say a pause or no, or like, someone asks when you're gonna make your next video and just say I don't know, like I don't, because the things you're saying too are really real, of like needing, I don't see that as scarcity mentality to say, hey, if I'm putting all of these hours into this every week, that in order to keep doing this, in order for this to be sustainable, I need something back to give energy to this. Otherwise, I need to give energy to something that is giving me financial energy back.
Yeah. I think
there's no set question in there. I'm just given, like, I'm like, where do these themes, I'm like, how do these themes overlap here?
Scarcity was a great word that you used. I think that's what I was like, I'm glad it came across that way. I think that's what I was trying to get across without realizing it. Because even with, let's say, you feeling like you need to pump out podcasts, well, why? Well, because I think it comes from a place of fear or scarcity that like, maybe viewers will leave or they won't come back, or I have to keep people interested. But like, that scarcity mindset. It's instead of saying people will come when they come and they're invited in at any time, and I trust that there will be people here to receive what I'm putting out. And so I think it's huge. I'm very into scarcity and abundance mindsets. I think it's very real. I've lived a period of life with just like, the world is terrible and it's bad here and I have nothing and I'm worth nothing. And then I've been like, oh, whoa, this is a magical place and it's like wonderful. I can't believe I ever thought there was nothing out there. And so and then teetering between the two, finding yourself in different like times of the month or the year or different jobs. It's like, okay, am I too far this way? Am I too far that way? Like, let's find something in the middle. Let's be a little, I don't know, let's flow to like a good sustainable route more towards the abundance side.
Yeah, well, there's so many overlaps of creativity and abundance. And for me, the feelings of, I feel more creative when I'm in that abundance mentality. And it can definitely go too far. And people like all of the spiritual bypassing and things. And in a spicy psychology, in a very tangible way too, I feel different when I'm focusing on what I have versus what I don't have. I create differently when I know all those things you were saying of trusting that there will be the abundance of energy coming back from quality people who are appreciating the quality things that you're giving rather than a scarcity force. Oh, I need to make this to like scratch this itch kind of a feel.
Have you heard of the book Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yes, I have. I haven't read it. I've read excerpts from that and like in one of his other books. I haven't read it straight through.
I'm getting through it. It's fairly dense. There's a lot of science happening, but I'm learning. I just learned about the chakras and our energy centers and how the first you're into it? Yeah, I figured. How the first 3 energy centers are all about survival, and it's reproduction, it's food, and it's something else, digestion, something else along those lines. Maybe you can chime in and say what it's about. Did I get that?
Yeah, you're on it exactly. Like we're getting sacral chakra.
Yeah. So in the chapter I've been reading, it's talking about how our energy, a lot of times we're living like under stress and under pressure that sometimes we don't even know we're stressed. So it's like chronic stress, and we've gotten used to it. And a lot of the time our energy can get sucked into and stored in the first 3 energy centers, so they can't actually flow up to the 7th. But it's interesting that we're talking about scarcity, because that's why energy can get locked there, is because you don't think there's going to be enough food. You don't think you're going to find a better mate to reproduce, and we are wired to want to do that. And then, where are my resources coming from? And you can get sucked into like a scarcity mindset. And when your energy is blocked down there, your creative energy can't flow. So you said, when I'm more in line with abundance, I feel more creative. Yes, because your energy is flowing.
Totally. The fluidity that we're talking about too with creativity, when it's fluid.
Yes.
And so many things too of Maslow's pyramid and resource distribution. And of course, if people are stressing about food and basic resources, then you're not going to be writing poetry. You're going to be figuring out how you can eat your next meal.
Yes, exactly.
If you're like stressing about, oh, do I want to do this brand sponsorship? Like, it doesn't need to be all the way on that extreme of, if you're having stress over looking through different brand sponsorships, or do I want to do this job or that job, then that puts energy towards that rather than following what you feel inspired by, and that abundance of, wow, I could make this thing or that thing, or I could switch and I can do interior decorating, I can do DIY, I can make whatever I want.
Yeah.
You can make whatever you want. I'm so excited to see the new stuff you're making, and to get to, like, part of what I love about creativity and different artists and getting to see artists, how they collaborate and how they make stuff on their own, is that then there'll still be it's still you making it. So there'll still be elements of Emma in how you do whatever you're doing. And also too, like, let's say in the future you have an inspiration to make sketch comedy or to do stand-up or something else with comedy. Whatever stuff you're doing now I really do believe in that sort of abundance mindset too, that it is all contributing. It's all going to be helpful for you in those things as well.
Absolutely. it's like adding to your toolbox of experiences. It's like every new experience you have is like you could think of as a new tool or a new paint color on your easel or whatever.
Yes, I love those metaphors. And it kind of goes to the thing you were bringing up before of the pressure that I feel. I do feel like there's kind of a general collective like shifting away from this. And I do still feel levels of like people boxing into like you're only allowed to be one thing. You have to be a singer or a dancer or a comedian or you do home improvement or you do painting or this again scarcity mentality that says, which is so goofy because it's so the opposite to me of creativity, that everyone's creative and that everyone has that creative expression that then comes out of course in all of these different ways. And it's not like how silly to expect someone to express their creativity and to have it flow only in one way.
We're told like hone in on one thing so that you can make strides. And it's
that you're like not good otherwise, or you're not being like devoted to your craft.
yes. And like I was talking to a very creative friend of mine recently. He's recently moved out to LA to pursue acting, but he feels a little bit like he wants to do everything and it's like a struggle for him. And I said, yeah, obviously it's a struggle because let's say you devoted the next year to only acting, right? You're going to get 10 steps forward on acting. But let's say you spend a year doing acting, singing, songwriting, poetry, you're writing a film, you're filming a film. Okay, well, that's 6 things that you're separating your time to. What if you only make like 1 step forward in each? You're still going to be 4 steps behind if you only focus on one thing. So it feels like you've done nothing. So I think it's easy for people to focus on one thing because it does make you feel more productive. Like it makes you feel like you're making more strides than if you disperse your energy. That's how I felt in the past and something I struggled with a little bit. But with what I'm kind of interested in doing in the future is like combining a bunch of things that I like on one channel so that I can jump to each thing but still be kind of on like that same brand of home and life and DIY stuff. But I think it's something creative people struggle with, is having multiple creative avenues and not feeling like they're doing enough if they're splitting their time. But like, says who? I don't know. Says the executive. Whatever. Boo.
Says who's a very powerful question. I feel like that's come up a lot in this recording. Like this feels like a very says who kind of therapy of like, says who you can only do this thing, or says who that you can't switch whenever you want, or says who you can't go back to something, or says who you can't combine these things, or like,
we made everything up. Everything's made up. Everything is made up. Everything.
It's almost like we're creating all of it, and also that it's already created, and then we're just like blowing it around. Okay, I want to bring up at some point in like, this seems like a time then to bring up home decor and DIY and things where there's such a sort of energy flow and creating and making space for all the different things that is just, I feel like that's so much of what that art is to me.
Yeah. So that's like my latest venture of, I've been filming I've redone most of my boyfriend's bathroom and as like a first YouTube video, and I've been editing it, and I'm gonna post, like, I'm not gonna post it until I have got a couple videos in my back pocket, just so that I want to be on like some sort of a schedule, but I don't want to be like the projects take a lot of time, and like more time than I thought they would take. And so if I fall back, I don't want to fall behind a schedule. I'd rather have a couple videos. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Like have some content to not feel the pressure.
Yes. However, I'm really liking working with my hands again. That's one thing about acting and sketch writing was that sketches were a little different. Acting really is where I felt there was nothing ever tangible. There was nothing, because most of the time you act in a movie and it comes out a year later. And so you're a different person here. But now you do a movie here and it comes out over there. It comes out a year later. And so you're not this person anymore, you're that person. And so you're always looking back on a past version of yourself that's also less experience of an actor that you are now because you completed the project, right? Like you learn so much on project A that you take into project B, but once you see project A, you're like, oh my God, like why was I doing that? And it feels like, because it's just a scene, it's not like, and because it's coming out a year later, it's like you can't even grasp it. That's what it felt like to me. And that's something I really struggled with was that I never felt like I was progressing or getting better, because you're always looking at a past version that you don't really relate to anymore because so much time has gone on, and hopefully you've done enough projects in the past year to get better. That's what I'm trying to say. With sketches, it was a little different because I was filming them and I was posting them that night after I edited for a couple hours. So, and then I could see it doing well or not doing well, whatever. The numbers really didn't matter. What mattered was like, then the next video, I learned something in the editing room that time that I could then apply. I'm posting that a week later. I can compare them, and it's more tangible because it's like more, like the timeline is so short. And so you can see from video to video, oh, like I'm getting better. Like I learned how to like color grade there. Like the sound quality is like a lot better there. And so you feel like you're getting better. Or, the way I set up the frame was better. Like it's encompassing more of the room or the character, yada, yada. That felt always more of like a tangible improvements than acting ever did. DIY home, I'm literally transforming a space, like stripping wallpaper, repainting, sanding, buying things, styling things, where at the end of it, I can see the before and after pictures and be like, I did it. I did the thing. It's tangible. I changed it. I transformed it. Like, this is cool. And I got better in the process. And now I can like use that on my next project. That I realized is very important to me, is being able to hold a thing that I make, like a painting or a vase, or see visible changes in a room that I did myself, because it makes me feel more accomplished. And accomplishments are important to me as a type 3 Enneagram. We were talking about this prior to.
Type 3 Taurus. As a human, also that feeling of satisfaction, that feeling of accomplishment, again, I think that can also be the thing where I've taken too far myself, for sure, of like kill the ego, where it's like, fuck that, what? The ego is helpful. Having a desire for accomplishments is helpful. Having the feeling of satisfaction to do something with your hands is helpful and connects you to your body, and that they can all be important in different ways. And I could totally see how acting or sketch is so different, to not be just like you described, the differences of something coming out in a year versus you getting more instantaneous feedback on it, versus you getting to see feedback that day of like, how does this bathroom look now versus how did it look this morning when I started. And
yeah,
because it's funny with like all like thinking about creativity and fluidity, it's funny to think about it. It's interesting with classic life humaning paradox, where we also need structure. This tangibility that you're bringing up is so real, and the feeling of, like we were talking about at the beginning, of it being you, not like the performer you for what other people want of you, that it's really truly you following that impulse, and then you having the feeling of satisfaction of fulfilling that impulse of, I changed this wallpaper, I got to make these people laugh. I got to make these people think. I following through on that intention. Well, also with more paradox, I just feel like a freaking ramble mess here where it's like following through while also being fluid in the creativity of like, you know, maybe you don't know how the decoration of that room is going to go exactly.
Yes. And this happened to me with this bathroom project. I bought a bunch of decor from Target thinking, oh my God, this is going to look great in the room. I got everything I need. And then you get into the space and you're like, oh, this does not go. This isn't what I had in my head, doesn't align with like what's happening in the room. That's okay. And like being fluid enough to change and go with a different creative impulse when you're trying to like style a room or what color to pick for the walls, yada yada, whatever it may be, and then being able to change it. Being able to change it's really important because for me specifically with acting, I can't go back and change a performance. It is what it is. It's cemented into video history. That's the performance, that's the character, that's the movie. If I don't like the paint color, guess what? Freaking paint. There's more, it feels like there's more control, and obviously control's a little illusion kind of, but it still does it feels better to have some say in it. That's what I liked about editing my own TikToks was I got the final say on the edit and the version of the line that I picked. And I like control, I guess.
We all do it. I think that again, and thank you again for being so real about that classic human control, that there's the whole Lord's Prayer about like, it's for a reason that we are all unpacking these themes. And I'm so glad actually too you bring that. That's what a cool ending to bring up of control and creativity, because of again that fluidity can be controlled, and also there is this element of control that we've been talking about of following your impulses, the control to listen to yourself, the control to be honest, to follow, hey, I want to do this thing, or to let yourself have the whole range of experiences of acting and okay, that character's out, all the way to I can repaint the wall every single day if I wanted to, and that I get to have all of those creative expressions.
Yeah, that's a really good point of control can't be fluid. I really like that.
Experience. It doesn't,
Yeah.
there is something to maybe like the control that we get is allowing the fluidity, or that there's definitely like some metaphors that feel very real in here about to control these things. You controlled to say, hey, I'm gonna stop making these kinds of videos. Hey, I want to start making these. Hey, I'm gonna go to Target and buy these things and do this. Hey, I'm gonna accept the reality of how it actually looks and feels in here, and not. Those are also things within your control.
Sure.
Fluid flow following of what.
Yeah. That's really cool. I have I wrote down in daily intentions of like, I'm trying to do I wrote some things down in a journal that were like daily intentions you can set. And one of them is, I will control what I can control. Basically, let go of the rest, like let it go. It's not in your control and whatever. But that's also like with what we were talking about, impulses. If your impulses say to do something and it's safe and it doesn't hurt anyone, go do it.
Yeah, why the fuck not? That kind of feels, does that feel for you related to that ick feeling we're talking about too? Or like, to me, that like hyper control, or when it feels like I'm doing something out of force, like that ick feeling is almost like this is too controlled, or this is like a forced control, if that makes sense.
There's a couple things coming to my mind. There's what I was originally thinking was control. If let's say you did a brand deal, control what you can control. I cannot control what others are going to think about me doing that brand deal. So just, I guess, let it go. But I don't know if that necessarily answers the ick question.
Some of it, keep going.
There was a lot of control in the advertisement, like a lot of back and forth with the brand of like, I thought it was going to be a little bit more open structured than it eventually became, and then it was quite rigid and not really what I had signed up for. And I had signed up for it. I signed a contract, but I didn't understand what any of the contract meant when I signed it. And I had a specific version of the way it was going to go in my head, which is why I accepted it. And then it went the complete opposite, and it was very controlled and rigid and whatever, but which also made it feel icky, because then it's somebody telling you how to do your own thing. So that was also like, I don't know, I think I'm okay with not doing this. I control what I do. I don't want you to control what I do.
Yeah, totally. But of course.
But it's also, they're trying to protect their own image and control their advertising. I mean, that's what they're paying you for. So it's like, if you're not okay with it, don't do the brand deal, which I wasn't okay with it, so I didn't do any more. Will I do brand deals in the future? I would say if it's DIY home and I'm using Gorilla Glue and they want to sponsor me, great, because I'm using it. But if it's something, that's also what felt icky. Like if it's not really like authentic to me and I'm not using the product, I'm not promoting it. Don't send me a hair gummy and tell me to promote it. I'm not going to eat it for 3 months and see if my hair is different. I don't want to ingest it. So I'm not going to promote it.
Yeah. And like you said too, of how I like to use the term bullshit meters, that we're also sensitive to when someone is being inauthentic or when it is hyper controlled or forced, or it's not, or the opposite of that, of when someone's in that fluid flow, you can really tell, like you can really feel. And that's why I'm so like, I love and thank you for being so existentially and philosophically messy on this now too. And that was what I loved when I came across your different sketches and how I got introduced to you, the getting to see your flow, getting to see the fluidity of your creativity. And of course I loved that specific content, and that was so fun. And also I know I'm going to love how that same flow comes out in something else. And I know I'm doing the classic, like preach something else to someone else. It's easier to say to someone else than yourself. And also it's so true that's what, I'm not the only one who feels that way about things that you've made and you will make. That I know you're going to get comments from someone whenever you post videos of DIY things where they're glad to see you and your creative expression and how you choose to show something and teach something. And I mean, I'm sure you can think of people who you've gotten to watch go to different kinds of creative projects, and you're not being like, I would doubt that the story in your head is something like, no, they're only allowed to dance. They can only like, you're like, wow, that's so cool that they do that too. Or like, oh, I can see how their artistic expression, I can see how that is coming out of them now in this other way, or just see how they're having fun and enjoying it and being creative, not like not that cog feel.
Yeah. They've allowed themselves to follow that impulse. It kind of gives you hope that you can do it yourself, and like courage to do it. It's like, if they're doing it, maybe I could do it too. And if I'm going to see, like, I'm just going to see it. Post your content, people. People want to hear you. Sometimes, depending on what you have to say.
somebody wants to. That
somebody does want to, yeah.
Like if you're posting the stuff that you want to post for you, that someone is going to know that you're posting your truth, that you're posting the art you really want to share.
And there's always going to be an audience.
There is. And I love you bringing up courage too, another of the C's and another big part of creativity, and that you're encouraging someone else to be creative too, and to put that out there also, or to say, hey, like, you can do comedy, you can do DIY, you can do a podcast, whatever it is, there's space for everyone to do it.
Yes. That's something too, just because somebody's already doing it, that's sometimes something that stopped me. Was like, oh, I'm not going to make sketches, somebody's already doing it. if I had never, we would not have met. Oh, I'm not going to do DIY home. Somebody's already doing it. Everyone's already doing everything. You got to at some point just say to yourself, like say yes to yourself and say, this is my take on it. Whether you want to watch it or not, this is what I got to offer, and, go with it.
Abundance again, that there isn't some scarcity of, oh, I love that. Say yes to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes.
Really appreciate you saying yes to podcast again. And I'm so excited to see all the creative things that you make. And like, I'm excited for whatever next creative thing that you decide to do. And I haven't even gotten to see this next one.
Well, thank you, Annie. I so appreciate you saying yes to having me back on the podcast. It's always lovely speaking with you about existential stuff and creation and community and all of that jazz and all the C's. It's a wonderful platform that you've created, and such wonderful conversation.
Oh no. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you said such
Hello.
wonderful conversation, and I appreciate you contributing to it and being willing to, again, be messy and be all over and flow around.
Yeah, I appreciate you being fluid and not rigid, because I went on a lot of tangents.
There's a lot in there. There's a lot in them.
Flow. Go with the flow.
Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in, and thank you for being you.